I'll never forget the night everything changed at that cabin out in the Alaskan wilderness. It was January, an unforgiving winter where the snow looked like an endless icy blanket stretching over the forest, a thick layer of white reflecting the dim, overcast sky. That place, so remote, felt quieter than ever, a heavy silence, almost like the very air was trembling with an unseen tension. My name's Jake. I'm 42, a woodsman by trade. Living out here for years, I've grown used to the cold and isolation. But that night, there was something different. Something in the weight of that unnatural silence. I was inside my cabin, nestled in a small clearing near Lake Wanash in northern Canada, about an hour's drive from any town or city. It was nearly midnight, and the wind was howling relentless, carrying a mix of icy gusts, pine scent, and dry snow. The fireplace crackled, radiating warmth as I kept on reading an old book, trying to relax after a long day. Mornings in these woods were quiet, light footsteps on snow while tending sheep or chopping firewood. But that night, everything felt off. At first, it was just a gut feeling, like I was being watched. I glanced around, trying to shake off the unease. The shadows of the trees swayed with the wind, cracking and shifting, and the distant sound of breaking branches seemed normal, part of the natural night symphony. The snow outside, marked with nearly invisible tracks, felt eerily silent, until I heard it. A scratching noise, distant, like something scraping or dragging across the snow, heading toward my window. I froze, listening more closely, heart pounding. My hand trembled as I shined my flashlight, breaths visible in the cold air. It could have been just the wind or my imagination, but deep down I knew that wasn't quite right. I stood there for a tense moment, listening to that oppressive silence turn into a heavy weight on my chest. Then I saw it. Movement. Oh, shadow flickering at the edge of my periphery, rushing past the window. Before I could even process what I saw, it was gone. My mind raced, trying to make sense of it. The night seemed to stretch on forever. Every minute felt like an eternity. The wind picked up, and the creaking of the trees grew louder, as if the forest was arguing with itself, ready to collapse at any moment. I grabbed my hunting rifle just for reassurance and kept watching out the window, each flickering light or distant sound feeling too close for comfort. Then I heard footsteps. Heavy footsteps, in the snow. Not the soft steps of an animal, or just the wind, deliberate, firm, slow. Somebody was walking toward me, patient and relentless. My heart leapt, adrenaline flooding every vein. I held my breath, trying not to make a sound, trying to convince myself that it was just my imagination. Who would come out here in the middle of winter's rage? Who besides me could be in these treacherous woods? That creeping sensation that I wasn't alone intensified, a chilling awareness that some unseen presence was watching, lurking in the shadows. I looked at the cabin door, debating whether I should go outside and check or pretend I saw nothing. Then I heard it again. Footsteps creeping closer, like they were inching toward their destination, slow and purposeful. And that's when everything changed. Suddenly, a dark shape appeared at the window, a silhouette against the faint glow of the snow-lit forest behind it. Its form wasn't exactly human, but something tall with elongated arms, moving with an unnatural grace. Its motions were fluid, almost ethereal, and its face. In that brief moment when the shadow appeared, my body locked up. In that split second when the shadow emerged, my entire body froze. My heart hammered even harder inside my chest, and for a moment my mind tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was just my imagination, a trick of fear, cold, and darkness. But the image stayed fixed on the window, and all I could truly feel was that something had truly revealed itself, something that shouldn't have been there. The shadow moved slowly, almost like it was gliding over the snow, whispering silently toward my window. Its motions were fluid, almost illusionary, as if it was escaping the pale glow of the moon trying to break through the heavy clouds. I couldn't make out the face, but its height, its stance, everything screamed in my mind. Not human. My muscles tensed. The cold had seeped deep into my bones, multiplying. My breathing grew ragged, and I tried to push the scene away with the thought that it was just a shadow, a dark trick of the light or my mind. But then, my blood ran cold. The shadow turned toward me. There, at the window, it stopped. It paused as if it were watching me, its invisible gaze fixed on my direction. No face, no eyes, just an oppressive presence. A feeling of emptiness took over, like it carried a presence beyond logical explanation, beyond understanding. It was a dead silence, heavier than the snow outside, more suffocating. I couldn't move my arms. Instinct told me to run, to grab my door, to escape that silent standoff with whatever it was. Some entity, some unnatural figure. My mind screamed for a decision. Stand firm, confront it, or run. Before I could do anything, the shadow started moving again. Slow and deliberate, as if sliding across the snow with a disturbing grace. Then it vanished in an instant, as if dissolving into the cold air, leaving behind a void that felt even more oppressive. Inside my head, a mixture of deep fear and primal survival instincts echoed, warning me. When I finally managed to breathe again, the silence returned. Complete, absolute, as if the forest and the night had swallowed that presence whole, without a trace. I stood there, frozen, unsure whether it was over or if it was just my mind playing tricks. The snow kept falling silently, heavy and relentless, the wind whistling through the trees. But one detail haunted me. A large, deep footprint in the snow leading up to my door. That footprint looked made by someone, or something, that had walked the exact same path as that shadow. The track extended right up to the cabin door, where I looked out from the window and saw it had disappeared, as if it had gone back to its hiding place, or as if it had never existed. On the ground, the snow seemed like it had been smoothed over. No additional tracks, only that one ominous imprint daring me to look closer. My body shivered, my breath coming in ragged gasps as I tried to understand what was happening. Then, just as I was trying to calm my racing heart and decide whether to step outside or stay quiet, I heard something that shattered me from the inside, sound coming from inside the cabin, a whisper. Low, almost like a hiss in my ear, repeating one word, one phrase. You shouldn't be here. And even knowing it could just be my imagination, my mind playing tricks, I couldn't shake the feeling that somehow this was a real threat. Something, someone, lurking in the darkness, watching, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself again. My skin prickled, the cold returned in full force, crawling over my body with that sensation that if I stayed there much longer, no matter how tough I thought I was against winter's bite, they, whatever they were closer than I'd believed. With my heart pounding out of my chest, I made a last-minute decision. I grabbed my flashlight, pushed open the door, and stepped outside, determined to see what was in the snow, hoping this was all just an illusion caused by isolation, fear, or the cold itself. But when I opened the door, what I saw outside was even more disturbing. As I pushed the door open, the night outside revealed something even more unsettling. In the snow surrounding the cabin, a series of footprints, different from mine, cut across the silence of the night. Large, deep impressions that looked as if they'd been made by a creature, something that wasn't there before, or perhaps had never truly been there at all. I stared fixedly, heart pounding in my chest, trying to make sense of it. Were these human tracks or something more terrifying? With trembling hands holding my flashlight, I shined the beam over the snow, revealing a shape nearly hidden among the trees, almost like a shadow moving between the branches, swallowed by the darkness. It was hard to see any details, but its tall, silent form seemed to be watching me, steady and unmoving. For a moment I thought it was an illusion, a trick caused by my fear, the way that first shadow had haunted me. Still, every fiber of my body screamed otherwise. Something real had come too close. I saw it in the flickering glow of my light, a head almost level with the tops of the trees, and a posture that radiated calm, as if it was simply studying, me unconcerned with moving away. Suddenly, the cold seized my entire body. My muscles froze solid, my brain desperately trying to process what I was seeing. Every sound around me seemed amplified. The creak of the trees in the wind, the distant hum of shifting branches, even the frantic beating of my own heart pounding in my chest. And then, that creature, that shadow, moved, slow and deliberate, like it was testing me, challenging me. Its movements felt almost supernatural, as if it belonged to this eternal winter, part of that frozen chaos that refused to thaw. God, I thought, what is that? Is it human? An animal? Or something that simply shouldn't exist? For a fleeting moment, it turned its head, or at least the shadow shifted, and its eyes, whatever they might have been, seemed to fixate on me, silently. I saw nothing but darkness swallowing everything around, but the feeling was deafening. It knew I was there, and it had no intention of hiding anymore. Without thinking, I took a step back, trying to convince myself I was just seeing things, just my fear taking over. But then that thing moved in the opposite direction, vanishing among the trees, leaving behind a track in the snow, a trail that seemed to beckon or threaten my return. My breathing turned to quiet gasps, a breathy gasp of defeat as my whole body begged me to act. I knew I had to get out of there. And if that thing came back, if this was just a preview of what was still coming? I ran back toward the cabin, slamming the door shut behind me with trembling hands. My grip wavered, and my heart pounded so loudly, I thought it might burst. Outside, silence, or what felt like silence, returned. An oppressive solitude, like the woods had swallowed everything, any signs of life, any remnants of hope. The snow kept falling, heavy and relentless, reflecting the faint light from the overcast sky. My body trembled uncontrollably, my mind a chaos of conflicting thoughts. I had seen it, felt its presence, heard its footsteps. Was it real, or just inside my head? Suddenly, from outside, I heard that whisper again, louder, clearer. And this time it wasn't a question or a trick of the wind, it was an actual warning, a threat. Not yet. In that instant, something within my mind exploded. A visceral fear, a seed of something ancient and unknowable, a sensation that that shadow, that being, what I'd seen, was still out there outside, watching, waiting, calm, but deadly, ready to strike again at any moment. I stood there, frozen at the door, with my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. The cold clawed into everything, and I knew one thing. I'd never look at those trees the same way again. Because that night I saw something that would change my life forever. So what do you think it was? Drop your theory in the comments. It was a brutal winter night deep in the Alaskan wilderness. I'm Emily, 28 years old, an adventurous soul obsessed with exploration and research, and I had decided to isolate myself in my cabin in the woods. Around me, the trees were cloaked in a thick layer of snow that shimmered under the pale moonlight, hiding the frozen ground beneath. Outside, the temperature had plummeted to 25 degrees, and the fierce wind howled relentlessly, causing the windows to groan and utter high-pitched, almost scratching sounds, as if trying to force its way inside. Inside, the warmth from the crackling fire in the fireplace embraced the cabin, filling the space with the comforting scent of burning wood, blending with the crisp, cold aroma of snow that reached up to the wooden walls. Only a single candle flickered, casting weak, shivering shadows that danced on the walls as I prepared a cup of hot tea, trying to establish a moment of calm amid the heavy, oppressive silence of the forest. The quiet outside was absolute. No sounds beyond the constant wind cutting through the trees and the soft, muffled rustling of snow, falling silently from the dark sky. It was a fleeting comfort, a sanctuary that made me feel safe despite the bone-chilling cold that seeped into my bones. Sitting in the armchair, I watched the snow drift lazily outside, my hands trembling slightly from the cold as I distracted myself with my mug of tea. It was a peaceful, routine night, one that offered a brief moment of relief before what was surely to come. Suddenly, a sound shattered that absolute silence. A faint shuffle, almost like a whisper, coming from outside beyond the cabin, on the snow-covered ground. I froze, my eyes glued to the window, trying to determine if it was just my imagination or some natural sound. But then I saw it, a shadow moving far away beyond the glass curtain, something that didn't belong to the usual scene of that forest. A dark silhouette, creeping slowly, almost as if it were watching me. My entire body prickled at once. An icy dread shot down my spine as if an invisible presence had settled beside me. I strained my eyes at the glass, but the shadow blurred into the sway of the trees in the wind, disappearing into the darkness. I stood there, breathing deeply, heart pounding like a drum, trying to convince myself it was just my tired mind, a trick of exhaustion or sleep deprivation. Yet that persistent feeling that I was being watched, like an unseen hand weighing on my consciousness, refused to fade. My whole body felt frozen, even with the fire crackling nearby, as if the woods outside had recoiled, revealing a face too terrifying to ignore. Suddenly, a nightmare sensation took over. I heard footsteps, quicker now, pounding in the snow, approaching the cabin. My heart felt like it would burst from my chest, pounding fiercely. My trembling hands fumbled for the lantern. Breaths grew ragged, fear rising like a tidal wave. The shadows at the window seemed to twist and writhe more violently, contorting in the darkness. Objects around me seemed to move on their own. The chair in the corner slowly tipping, the closet door creaking as if someone or something was inside. The cold intensified, piercing my skin, penetrating to my bones like an icy wind that wouldn't stop. It was like someone or something was out there watching, waiting. Was it just my messed up mind? Had someone really made it through that storm and come this close? Who could it be? I whispered, my heart in a tumult of doubt and fear. Why are they watching me? I couldn't stop staring out the window, waiting for the shadow to reappear. Closer, clearer, a real threat that could invade my sanctuary at any moment. Then, it happened. A shadow flashed across the window, a dark figure moving silently, slicing through the glass like an arrow. It was so quick I had to blink twice to believe what I'd just seen. A shadow, almost humanoid, passing in front of the window at terrifying speed, as if it was taking advantage of the weak light, or maybe just as if it was trying to scare me. My body froze for a moment. My blood went cold, and my heart pounded even harder. Suddenly, with a deafening crash, the door burst open. A dark shape materialized at the entrance, almost brushing my clothes with the icy wind that swept into the cabin. It felt as if the air had been sucked from my lungs. My breath turned ragged, my skin prickled all over. That shadow stood there. In the doorway, a vague silhouette, yet undeniably real, dragging itself in slowly, almost as if it had been waiting for me. Every part of my body screamed in panic. My hands trembled uncontrollably, my legs felt like jelly, and a chilling sense of imminent danger seized me. I had to run. I couldn't stay there, waiting for whatever it was to decide to leave or to strike. Without hesitation, I lunged toward the door, stumbling over the heavy snow outside. In that moment, everything felt like chaos. The footprints left by the shadow vanished into the darkness, disappearing as if nothing had happened. But even as I tried to retreat, that ominous feeling persisted. A deep, unsettling suspicion that it was still nearby. Maybe the shadow had retreated into the night. But, in this complete silence of the forest, something else, something I couldn't name, still lurked. It was waiting, watching, convinced that it had already won. As I reached the bulk of my escape, I managed to stop, breathless, and looked back. The silence was total now. No footsteps, no wind, no leaves, just the biting cold closing in around me. The snow beneath my feet felt heavier, denser, as if hiding something more sinister beneath its surface. What disturbed me most was the feeling that it hadn't just been a fleeting shadow. I had the impression that whatever it was, that thing, was still out there watching me, concealed in the vast, dark emptiness of the forest. I tried listening more intently, any sound of breathing or movement, but there was nothing. Still, that persistent conviction that I hadn't completely escaped that presence haunted me, following every thought. Maybe deep down it had never left. Maybe it was still lurking there, hidden in the shadows of the night, waiting for its next chance to show itself again. That night in Alaska marked something strange inside me. Even now, I sometimes feel a sharp pang of fear when I think about the shadow that crossed my window, the figure that nearly touched me with that icy wind. And more than that, I wonder, was I really just imagining it all? Or was there something actually there in the darkness that chose me? A force that feeds on silence and cold, only revealing itself at the moment of greatest vulnerability? I don't have full answers, maybe I never will. But one thing's certain, that forest that night, they were never the same for me again. I still hear footsteps in the snow, things moving just beyond my sight, and every time I shut my eyes, I get that feeling that the shadow that ran in front of me is still out there, waiting for its next chance to show up. So, what do you think? That was? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you've ever been through something like this, tell me below. And if this story stuck with you, leave a like, share it with your friends, and don't forget to follow me for more tales like this. It was a cold winter morning in Norway, completely isolated on my farm in the middle of the icy wilderness. Snow had piled up everywhere, blanketing the fields and trees, forming a silent, endless white expanse stretching to the horizon. Temperatures dipped to 30 degrees, and the biting cold seemed to seep into my bones. Inside the cabin, the crackling fire in the hearth kept the space warm, while the comforting aroma of baking bread filled the air. A smell that, for a moment, seemed to lift the heavy weight of the solitude surrounding me. The faint glow of the sun, hardly peeking through the short, dark winter days, filtered in through small windows, casting faint shadows on the old wooden walls. My morning routine was simple. Tend the fire, brew a strong coffee, and watch the frozen landscape outside while listening to the absolute silence, broken only by the gentle falling of snow, like a never-ending shower of crystal, soft and relentless. The air seeped through cracks in the windows, carrying that sharp, cold chill and an odd feeling of safe routine. One quiet moment of peace before everything changed. Then, suddenly, a strange sensation shot through me. I heard a faint sound, footsteps perhaps, coming from outside the cabin, even though I was completely alone in that vast forest. My body tensed as I listened to that odd noise, and my eyes darted toward the window, trying to understand what I was hearing. An uneasy feeling took over, like something was off. For a brief moment, I pressed my hand against the frozen glass, trying to rationalize it. Maybe it was just the wind, or my imagination playing tricks. But then, I noticed a shadow, subtle and nearly imperceptible, moving slowly across the snow in the distance. A dark silhouette shifting toward the cabin, even as the cold and that heavy silence around us made clarity difficult. My heart pounded instantly, and a shiver traced down my spine. It was as if someone, or something, was out there, lurking, in the snow, waiting. The feeling of being watched intensified, even though no one else was near. Just that shadow slinking away in the opposite direction, leaving an icy sense of dread behind. Minutes later, the footsteps, or movements, in the snow, seemed to draw closer and closer, slow but relentless. The silhouette at the window appeared to move with unsettling calm, almost as if it was playing with my anxiety. At the same time, objects around me started to seem alive. The chair beside the fireplace, the tools on the workbench, even the pantry door, which sometimes shifted as if it had been nudged by an invisible hand, dragging against the floor. My heart pounded fiercely, threatening to burst from my chest. My hands trembled uncontrollably, and a deep, bone-chilling cold took over me. I tried to focus, but my mind felt tangled, a jumble of chaotic thoughts. Could it just be my imagination? Or is someone really out there, hidden in the snow and darkness? I whispered to myself. Who could it be? What's hiding in the snow? Every sound, every strange movement seemed amplified, as if the silence was about to swallow everything whole, swallowing my rising anxiety. Suddenly, everything intensified. A quick, dark shadow streaked past the window, almost as if a figure was trying to touch the glass with its unseen presence. My body froze for an instant, unable to move, my heart pounding as if it wanted to leap from my chest. That shadow was so fast I could barely make out any details. But the impact of the sight was enough to leave everything around me in silence, tense and raw, an immediate sense of danger griping my entire being. I gasped for breath, heart racing uncontrollably, as my hands seemed to disobey. Every external sound grew louder, the wind howling more fiercely, the snow cracking on the wood, my own labored breathing filling the silence. Something out there in the darkness was clearly watching, waiting to invade my space, my privacy, my life. I couldn't stay inside anymore. I had to escape. Suddenly, without thinking, I leapt away from the cabin, driven by pure instinct. The bow image had disappeared, but the fear refused to fade. My body was seized by an urgency I couldn't control. I sprinted through the heavy, freezing snow, vaulting over the threshold, and pushed myself away from the cabin, craving to get as far as possible from whatever or whoever was out there. Every step felt heavier in the dense snow, like the cold wanted to hold me captive, trapping me forever. In the darkness, I turned my head momentarily, trying to spot any shadow or movement behind me. But all I saw was the vast, silent forest, bathed in pale moonlight. Yet the persistent feeling lingered, that something, or someone, was still out there, stalking me. The footsteps in the snow, distant but constant, seemed to continue like an invisible presence following in the shadows. My pulse thundered in my ears, a mixture of fear and exhaustion, as I desperately searched for a hill or a crest I could climb, something to hide behind, to escape those relentless footsteps and that chilling gaze tracking my every move. When I reached the crest of the hill, I paused, breathless, and stole one last look behind me. The snow had covered my trail, or at least I hoped it had, and the heavy silence around me felt even thicker. The wind howled fiercely, freezing any hope that it was all over. Yet despite fleeing, something hadn't left. That feeling lingered, the notion that even after I ran, that thing, or someone, was still watching me from the shadows of the trees. I always find it terrifying to think about those moments of vulnerability, the icy emptiness of the snow, the total darkness, and that overwhelming fear of not truly understanding what had just happened. There's a force out there in the endless cold hiding something, maybe something we can't see or something beyond our understanding, but it's always there waiting in the silence of the polar night, biding its time for the next opportunity. And so, I ask myself, what was that? Leave your opinion in the comments. Was it just my imagination, or was there more? Something lurking in the shadow, in the snow, in the darkness? If you've ever experienced something similar, tell me down below. And if this story made you think, leave a like, share it with your friends, and don't forget to follow me for more stories like this. That feeling of an unseen presence, of a threat lurking in the shadows, left a mark on me. I had the sense that whatever was out there, invisible yet ever present, was still hiding in the icy vastness, waiting for its next chance to appear or to catch me. At that moment, I realized it was no longer just fear. It was vulnerability, exposed in the endless solitude of the Norwegian winter. And even as the snow fell softly around me and silence reclaimed the night, a deeper doubt persisted. Was something truly gone? Or was it still out there, watching, waiting in that frozen darkness? I always find it scary to think about those moments of vulnerability, the solitude of the snow, the total darkness, and the fear of not understanding what just happened. There's a greater force out there in the endless cold that could be hiding anything, maybe something we can't see or something we'll never truly understand. But it's always present, lurking in the silence of the polar night, waiting for its next opportunity. So, What do you think that was? Leave your opinion in the comments. Was it just my imagination? Or was there something more? Something lurking in the shadow, in the snow, in the darkness? If you've ever experienced something similar, share your story below. And if this story made you think, leave a like, share it with your friends, and don't forget to follow me for more tales like this.